Our first story takes us to a place infamous in the paranormal world. A place so notorious for its high strangeness that it's often called one of the most haunted places on Earth. We're going to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, just outside of Chicago. But we're not seeing it from the perspective of a ghost hunter or a thrill-seeking teenager. We're seeing it through the eyes of someone who was paid to be there. A former nighttime caretaker. In the late 1970s, a man we'll call Frank took a job as an overnight caretaker for the small, isolated cemetery. It was a simple job: patrol the grounds, deter vandals, and be a presence in the dark. Frank was a no-nonsense, pragmatic man. He didn't believe in ghosts and saw the job as easy money. That attitude wouldn't last long. His first few weeks were quiet. The unsettling part wasn't a specific event, but a growing feeling, an oppressive sense of being watched from the dense woods surrounding the small plot of land. He would hear footsteps on the gravel path behind him, only to turn his flashlight and find nothing. He would see flickers of light, like camera flashes or lanterns, dancing between the trees, but would never find their source. The first truly terrifying incident happened near the small lagoon at the edge of the cemetery. One moonless night, he was making his rounds when he saw it. A figure of a horse pulling a plow emerged from the murky water of the pond. Both the horse and the elderly farmer guiding it were spectral, semi-transparent, and utterly silent. They moved slowly across the path in front of him and dissipated into the trees on the other side. Frank was frozen in place, his logical mind struggling to process the impossible sight. But the defining, most disturbing event of his tenure happened a month later. He was in his small security shack when he heard what sounded like a child crying softly. Fearing a real child was lost or hurt, he grabbed his flashlight and followed the sound. It led him to a small, unassuming headstone of an infant. As he got closer, the crying intensified, seeming to come from the very ground beneath the stone. He knelt, aiming his flashlight at the grave, and the crying abruptly stopped. It was replaced by a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the soles of his shoes. A wave of pure, unadulterated menace washed over him. This wasn't the sad echo of a lost spirit. It felt predatory. He scrambled backward, fell, and crab-walked away before getting to his feet and sprinting back to his shack, locking the door behind him. He quit the very next day and never set foot in Bachelor's Grove again. Frank's story persuades us that some places are not meant for the living after dark. His experience suggests that the folklore isn't just folklore. It's a warning passed down for a reason. Our second story comes from another legendary location, Union Cemetery in Easton, Connecticut. It's most famous for the legend of the White Lady, the ghost of a woman often seen gliding along the nearby roadway. But this story isn't about the White Lady. It's about something far more personal and insidious. It's the story of a group of amateur paranormal investigators who got more than they bargained for. In the early 2000s, a small group of 4 friends, armed with digital cameras, voice recorders, and a healthy dose of skepticism, decided to spend a night in Union Cemetery. Their goal was to try and capture evidence of the famous White Lady. For the first few hours, nothing happened. They joked around, drank coffee, and felt a little foolish. The atmosphere was peaceful, almost serene. The bad decision they made was to get comfortable. They let their guard down. They split up, each taking a section of the cemetery to investigate alone. One of the investigators, a young woman named Sarah, sat down by a large, ornate mausoleum to listen for electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. She would ask questions into the darkness, leaving silence in between. "Is anyone here with us tonight? Can you tell us your name?" It was during playback that the terror began. After she asked, "What do you want?" a faint but clear whisper was captured on the recording. It didn't answer her question. It whispered her name, Sarah. Chills ran down her spine. No one else was near her. She called her friends over, and they listened to the recording, their faces turning pale. As they stood there, huddled together, a different sound started. A chorus of whispers seeming to come from all around them. They couldn't make out the words, but the tone was mocking, malevolent. It sounded like dozens of voices all whispering at once, just at the edge of hearing. Panic set in. They grabbed their gear and ran, the sound of the whispers chasing them all the way to their car. But it didn't end there. For weeks after the investigation, Sarah reported hearing faint whispers in her own home, always when she was alone. She would hear her name spoken softly, just as she was about to fall asleep. The experience left her with severe anxiety and a deep-seated fear of the dark. This story persuades us to consider the psychological implications of these encounters. Was it mass hallucination, or did they stir something up in that cemetery, something that was able to latch on and follow her home? Our final story takes us to the humid, vibrant, and haunted city of New Orleans, and its oldest and most famous city of the dead, St. Louis Cemetery Number 1. It's the final resting place of the legendary voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. But this story isn't about her. It's about a tourist who made a terrifyingly bad decision and the unnerving figure he encountered because of it. In 2013, a young tourist from Australia, we'll call him Liam, was visiting New Orleans. He was fascinated by the city's history and unique burial traditions. St. Louis Number 1 closes its gates to the public at 3 p.m. Liam, however, decided he wanted to experience the cemetery at sunset. This was his bad decision. He lingered, hiding behind a large tomb as the final tour groups and staff members left for the day. He waited until the gates were locked and he was alone, or so he thought. For a while, it was exactly what he wanted, eerily beautiful and silent. But as dusk truly began to settle, a new feeling emerged. A heavy, oppressive feeling of being watched, not by a ghost, but by something physical, something hostile. He caught a glimpse of movement at the end of an aisle. A tall, gaunt man in tattered clothing, his face obscured by shadow, but his eyes glittering. Liam turned and walked quickly in the opposite direction, but around every corner the man reappeared, closer each time, never speaking, never running, just watching. This went on for what felt like an eternity. In a final, desperate move, Liam scrambled up the side of a large tomb, saw the main gate, and the man standing directly below him, his expression blank, utterly terrifying in its emptiness. Liam jumped from the tomb, landed hard, and sprinted for the gate, screaming. By sheer luck, a police car was nearby. They helped him over the wall. When they swept the cemetery with their lights, the man was gone. Liam was safe, but the question remains: who was that man? A vagrant, a ghost, or something else entirely? A guardian of the cemetery who doesn't take kindly to trespassers.